I wanted to get something to do more gravel, bike packing, something I could ride on the road occasionally. So I came up with Salsa. It makes something called a Cutthroat. Actually, it was designed to ride what's called the Tour Divide, which goes from Banff, Canada, all the way to Mexico, like 3,000
Wow.
miles. So, I want to do more adventure riding, which takes me to probably my longest ride was to date is probably 330 miles in 4 days. I rode across Maryland by myself in four
Wow.
days. And we're planning a trip to ride across Pennsylvania this summer, which has got like 28,000 feet of
It's a
climb
big
over a
state.
lot of mountains. Yeah, it's forget how many. I think it's 400 miles in four
So you ride through the
days.
Poconos?
No, this is more central. We'll start in New York and ride south to Maryland, but still,
Okay.
you're
Okay.
going through over a lot of mountains.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to live in Pennsylvania and in Philadelphia, and
Oh,
we
really? That's where I grew
driven
up. I
across a
grew up in
couple
the
times.
Poconos, near the Poconos where I
I
grew
was
up.
gonna say, from your accent, I was like, I think you're from Delco or
Nazareth,
Pencil.
Pennsylvania, home of
Yeah.
Mario Andretti and Martin Guitar. That's where I'm
Okay.
from.
All right.
Yeah,
So okay, so I was spot on with my accent detection. So,
that's funny.
uh, yeah. So you said you did a 330-mile race in 4 days. How do
It was just
you?
decided to do it. I did the research. I had my
Yeah.
girlfriend drop me off in West Virginia, and I rode each day. A couple days I stayed at bed and breakfast. One night I camped. One night I stayed at my house because I was coming past my house halfway through the state.
Sure. Sure.
And then the last day, I think I rode 104 miles from Northeast Maryland all the way down the other side of Chesapeake Bay to Lewis, Delaware. And that was a funny story. I ran out of water after 60 miles, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And I'm going through these chicken farms. These trucks with chickens were almost passing me, running me over. And I finally found this little restaurant in Delaware. I got some water. Thank God. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I made
So how do you prepare for a race like that? Do you like build
it.
up to it? How
Yeah.
how much time do you spend like mapping it out and
I'm a
physically and
YouTube
mentally
junkie. I
preparing for that?
research things. I'm very detail oriented. I like to research stuff. So, today online you can watch YouTube videos on anything, but typically I'll do the research, watch some other people that have ridden the area. Now, I mapped out my own ride in Maryland. I knew a lot of the roads, not all of them, but being from Maryland for a long time. But even that, I hit some unexpected things doing that trip. So you have to train. I ride typically 3, 4 days a week. I typically ride, depending on the time of year, anywhere from 70 to 150 miles a week is typical what I ride. And last year, I signed up this time of year to ride something called Unbound in Kansas. So you have to get in
What's
a
that
lot.
like? Yeah, tell us about
It's the
that.
largest gravel race in North America. So people come from all around the world to out in the middle of nowhere in Kansas. They have these gravel roads, wide open spaces, cattle running across the road, going through creeks. And you sign up and they have a 50, 100, and even a 350-mile gravel race that they race all night long through the night. No
Wow.
matter what, thunderstorms, lightning, whatever, you're out there riding. So I went in easy on the 50 mile. I think it took me 3 hours and so to do it, but it was one of the fastest rides I ever did. So I trained around here on a couple of mountains. It was a little hilly, but the thing is, there's really sharp gravel. A lot of people get flat tires. You got to change your own tire if you get a flat, to get to the finish. You have to hydrate. That's another thing. You have to learn to take in water and food while you're riding when you do these long rides so that you
Yeah,
don't what
yeah.
they call bonk or, run out and cramp or anything like that. So there's a lot of science behind it. And again, just over years of experience of knowing what to do, I automatically drink every 10 minutes or, I drink, 26 ounces every 15 miles. So,
Oh, okay. So there's
two
some
bottles, I
real
can go
like
30 miles before I have to stop and refill up, or if I do a
okay. So
long
there's some
trip,
real math going
yeah, I
in
had
there,
like
right?
5 bottles of water, so I could go 60 miles without stopping. Like I said, but then I ran out of water at 60 miles because there was no water to get. That's true.
This might be TMI, but are you peeing while you're still on the bike, or are
No,
you
believe it or
stopping for
not,
that? Okay.
you're sweating it out is what it is, especially in the summertime. It
Okay.
just goes out your
Yeah.
pores. I mean, eventually you're going to stop at some point, but it's not like because you're over drinking, you're stopping more to go, but it pretty much sweats out of your pores.
Okay. Because I have a buddy that does ultra marathons,
Oh yeah,
and
it's
he's told
crazy.
me that people will just pee while they're
Yeah,
while
don't
they're
do that. No, I'll
mid
stop.
stride.
No,
You
I'll
know,
stop.
they'll
in a
yeah they'll only stop if they have to
in a
poop.
cornfield or
But
something, depending where
yeah,
you're
yeah,
at.
exactly, or in the mountains somewhere. Uh, I want to talk about the mental aspect of that. I mean, obviously the physical fatigue is, I'm sure a big issue with cramps and just
Yeah.
dealing with everything, being on a bike for, 30, 40, 50 miles at a time.
Right.
What is that mental aspect? Like, are you listening to music? Are you listening to a podcast, an audiobook?
I
Like,
used
how do you
to
stay
years ago,
focused?
I would have earbuds, but I found it unsafe, especially on the road. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
occasionally if I want to have an odd day, I'll stick my earbuds in. But now I ride on trails in the woods. I'll take my chances with the trees versus cars. I broke 5 ribs on the right side a couple of years ago. This is a funny story. So my girlfriend's in the hospital, right? So I stayed overnight in the hospital. She said, "Go home and feed the cat." All right. September, 70 degrees. I go home, feed the cat. I'll go for a short ride. I didn't even get a football field from the house. I hit a pothole, flipped over my handlebars, and
Oh no.
broke 5 ribs. I'm in a different hospital than she is. She was not happy when she got out of the hospital because I wasn't there to take care of her. I'm in another hospital with 5 broken ribs.
Yeah, that
So,
that might be a deal breaker.
but back to your question about it is mental when you get in these longer rides. I typically ride 30, 40 miles on a clip most days when I'm riding. But if I'm doing 60, 50, or I'm doing a race, even with Unbound, that's nonstop, 50 miles. You're going as fast as you can. So you have to be drinking. You have to. So I practiced last year being down in my drops because I knew it was going to be windy out there. And that helped me a lot. So I knew what the circumstances were going to be of the race, and I practiced it for 6 months to get in shape. Actually, my co-host on the podcast, Hank, was my first coach to my first 100-mile bike ride, which we did around Lake Tahoe. So we did it with team in
That must
training.
have been so beautiful. That
Oh,
that
it's
area is
gorgeous.
just gorgeous.
So,
Yeah.
I had to raise like 5,000 miles and then I got a free trip out to Tahoe. But I met Hank. He was like a coach that we worked with for, I think, 5 months. So we were training. I'd never done 100 miles. I don't think I did more than 50. So there I was eating jelly beans right around Lake Tahoe. That was my nutrition back then. But, learn how to drink and train and ride. But back to your question about mental, I mean, it goes back to why I ride. Meditation. I always joke, I ride to eat. I like to eat good food. So
Sure,
riding,
sure.
if you're exercising, you can eat better. You still want to eat healthy, obviously. But the other reasons I ride is my back is screwed up because I had a motorcycle. I've only ever been to the hospital twice in my life. Once with the 5 broken ribs, and once when I was 26. I came home from Bermuda. My brother gave me his rocket ship motorcycle. I went for a ride. I went over the handlebars of that, 116 miles an hour. I
Oh
rolled
wow.
down the highway. Didn't break anything, but lost a lot of skin. So I always had a bad back for a while. I went to a chiropractor for years, but I found this is really interesting. This summer, I was riding with 2 doctors from North Carolina. They were up here riding on the CNOs, friends of mine, and one was a back surgeon. I didn't know him, but I did after the trip. And I said, "Hey, why is it that when I ride my bike, my back doesn't hurt? But if I don't ride for 3 weeks, I get nasty and my back hurts."
Tightens up. Yeah.
Yeah. He says it's because the endorphins from riding a bike stimulate the muscle, the growth around your spine, and it strengthens it. If you don't ride, you're not getting those endorphins. It's not strengthening the muscles around your spine, and you're going to have issues. So, people with back issues, which are a lot of Americans these days, bike riding can be really good for you. And bike riding is also good for runners that can't run anymore. They got knee issues or other issues.
How do you occupy your mind for, you said the meditation? Are you just,
I
you know,
just,
in
I,
your own head? Like,
Part of the reason, like I said, I like riding in the woods or on a trail anymore versus the road. The roads become very dangerous. I know a lot of people have been killed
mhm.
on the roads because people texting, they weren't doing that
Yeah,
10 years
yeah.
ago, 15 years ago as much. But, in where I ride, I see deer, I see blue heron, I see bald eagles, I see foxes run through the woods. I'm riding along a beautiful river. It's just so peaceful. I lost my mom about 8 years ago, and I think of my mom, and when I think of her, I see a hawk every time. So there'll be a red-tailed hawk will be cruising in the woods right next to me or coming over top of me within 2 minutes of thinking of her. So she's my, there's a serious connect. And I had a great relationship with my mom. I think that's part of it. I have a really strong
Hmm.
connection with her, and she shows up when I think of her. But it's just so calming. You feel good. Some days are better than others. Some days you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't, I don't feel that great today. I feel like I'm working really hard to go 10 miles, and other days I don't even think about it. I always say I take 15 miles just to warm up. It takes me a while to get into that groove. But once I hit 10, 15 miles, I'm not even thinking about my legs. I'm just looking at the environment. I'm relaxing. The other thing is I usually ride by myself most times, believe it or not.
Hmm.
Occasionally I do rides with other groups around the area, or if I go to an event, I'm riding with a big group. Or, a buddy of mine, we've done bike packing trips. We went down to West Virginia last year. We saw a black bear or riding along the trail in West Virginia. Um, so it's just, and I think what's cool about bike riding, I could say it's about my latest bike is, I named it, what the heck is it? Vigatero, which in
Okay.
Italian means adventurer. So it's all about the
Yeah.
adventure. It's
Hmm.
not about the destination, even though you set a destination. It's about what happens along the way, the people you meet, the places you go. That's the beauty about bike riding. I've met so many cool people traveling the world. I've done bike rides in San Diego. I did I think when I was 50, I did a ride for diabetes. You do rides to raise money for different causes, which is cool.
Oh,
I
that's
got
really cool.
lost in a polo grounds in out by Torrey Pines, a famous golf course. But I got off track and I ended up being in a polo ground with horses. I'm like, I'm lost.
That must
So
have been fun, at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah. So I've done, one of my goals is to do a bike ride race in every state before I die. I think I'm probably three-quarters of the way there. So I'm
Okay.
always looking for new places to ride, new adventures. Um, I did a this is a funny story. I did a ride with my friend Hank, and it was his idea to do a bike packing trip. And get this, he's never done a bike packing trip where you load all your gear, you camp. So we are going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
camp overnight in the Smoky Mountains. So this is crazy. We set
This
out
is in Tennessee, right?
in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Actually, it was in North Carolina. We went into Tennessee where the Smokies are. We're riding for like 11 hours. We haven't seen a person all day. We finally come down a mountain. We found one store hoping they'd have sandwiches. They didn't even have sandwiches. So like we were SOL on lunch for that. So 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we come down the mountain. There's like 4,000 rafters in some river in this little town. We did get a sandwich. Then we take off up another mountain to climb. We were climbing and climbing, and like we're like, how far is it to where we're going to this campground on top of the next mountain? So we finally see a UPS truck driver out in the middle of nowhere come down the gravel road. Say, hey, do you know where this campground is? He goes, that's over the next ridge, and I think
Hmm.
it's closed because of the bears. I'm like, and then my buddy Hake's like, "Are you kidding me? Now what are we gonna do? Our car's like the next state over." So a little while later, I said, "Calm down, we'll get there. Don't worry." I'm the easygoing person.
Yeah,
He's
you're the
freaking
even keel
out.
guy.
He's freaking out. And then here's this lady walking down. I think she was out for a jog or so. We said, "How you doing today?" "Hey, we're trying to get here. What do we do for a night? Any suggestions?" "Well, if you guys want to camp in my front yard, that's fine." So she let us set up camp in her front yard. Next thing you know, this is like 7 o'clock at night. We've been riding for 11 hours. And all her neighbors, her brother, her uncle, the whole neighbors in the holler are all coming down to see us. I think her brother was a volunteer firefighter. So by 10
They
o'clock at
probably don't
night,
get many visitors at that point, right?
yeah, right.
In
Like with
that.
these crazy guys out in the middle of nowhere, right? She was actually a ER, what do you call it? Like the shock trauma nurse from Johnsonville,
Okay.
Tennessee. But anyway, long story short, they ended up driving us over two mountain ranges at 10 o'clock at night to get our car. Then we drove our cars back to their house. I think we got in at 1 in the morning. We camped and we got out of that situation. So there was a case. We never made our destination, but it was all about this crazy trip of trying to get to where we wanted to go to camp, which we never
Yeah,
did.
that sounds like a lot of fun. There's a couple things I wanted to ask
Go
about. I
ahead.
mean,
Shoot.
you talked about the meditation, the aspect of riding through nature and things
Yeah.
like that. Like, does it feel like a spiritual experience? I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but does it feel like a spiritual
Oh,
experience when you're
yeah.
riding,
Definitely. And
out in the
again, every
woods?
day is different. I ride all year round. I ride in the cold. I've learned if you have the right gear, you can ride anywhere, any time of year. I hate the cold actually, but if you ride the right gear, merino wool, good socks, good jersey and stuff. But even I'll ride the C&O trail all year round. It's different every time I go out. Like sometimes I'll see deer everywhere. I was out the other day. I didn't see a deer all day. So, but springtime, the flowers are coming up. Snow. I've ridden in the snow out along the river. It's just beautiful. Um, so it's it no matter what it is, even on a bad day, even though I don't feel good, I feel great. I always feel better after I do a ride. Some days I'll ride early in the morning, depending on the year. Some days I'll ride at lunchtime. Some days I'll ride late at night, depending on temperature or what it's like. Trying to avoid the rain. Occasionally I'll ride in the rain. But I've ridden in Vermont in a pouring rainstorm. I've ridden other places in pouring rain and had fun. It's just like, doesn't matter. It's just cool. But it's good for the mind, good for the heart, good for the soul, good for your body. I, I can't find anything bad about bike riding. It's always been good to me. I I always said I'll ride till as long as I can. You know,